Associate Professor Jayne Persian. Okay. So the project's name is Russian Immigrants and Anti-Communism in Cold War Australia. We're looking at the post-war decade, so 1946 to 1966. Yes, so it's the Australian Research Council and it's a discovery project. So 4-year-long project with 3 colleagues from 3 different universities, plus we have a partner investigator, so it's quite a big project, and I just have a small part of that project. So the lead CI is Professor Ruth Ballant at the University of New South Wales, also working with very eminent Professor Sheila Fitzpatrick, who's currently at Australian Catholic University. She's very well known in Soviet historiography. We're very, very fortunate to have her in Australia. Also Professor Philip Deary at Victoria University, who's a Cold War Australia specialist, and our partner investigator is Mara Mustafin, who is working out of the University of New South Wales and is a China Russian, so has expertise in those Russians who arrived in Australia via the China route, as we call it, who migrated first to China and then to Australia. So we're looking at the politics of the Russian migrants who came to Australia, not only how they were viewed by the Australian public and the Australian government as Russians in the Cold War, so this is particularly as the Cold War is heating up, freezing up, but also the political baggage that they're bringing with them. So I'm particularly focusing on those Russian and Eastern European migrants who were of the far right. So particularly those who may have been war criminals, perpetrators of the Holocaust, and other sort of fascist ideologues, collaborators who managed to become displaced persons in the post-war period and resettle all over the West, including Australia. So I am a historian predominantly of post-war displaced persons and have been for 15 years or so. And that interest came about because I married a grandson of displaced persons and hadn't really heard of them before. I went looking for the historiography and there really wasn't much. So I really got in at the beginning stages of the historiography in Australia because lots of historians at the moment are now looking at post-war displaced persons. That's my personal interest, and my husband has Russian and Ukrainian grandparents. And so my first book was on the post-war displaced persons scheme in Australia more generally. And yeah, so this project is focusing more narrowly on the politics. So I've written a whole book from this ARC grant. It's titled Fascists in Exile, Post-War Displaced Persons in Australia. It was published with Routledge, and it's really wide-ranging. I'm the first historian who's ever looked at right-wing displaced persons. And not only really in Australia, I think the Australian historians are leading the field globally here by looking at politics. So yes, I found quite a few interesting things, of course focusing on the war crimes investigations and trials in the 1980s, which is really interesting. So the archives have just opened up recently, which contain all of the investigations, all of the files pertaining to those particular cases. Also found that one of the people who established, or one of the first Australian Nazi parties in Australia was a Hungarian displaced person. And so we see ties with certain Hungarians and Croatians with homegrown fascists. So that was interesting and yeah, hadn't been known at all before then. So really this is beginning research. A lot of this stuff is hidden in communities and continues to be in community archives, in communities, and also within families. And so I think we'll learn more and more, as the work keeps going. Great.